Hello and welcome to another episode of the Indie Alternative Podcast. It's me, Chris. Another great episode today. It was an absolute delight to speak to James Walsh of the band Starsailer. James talks about the 20-year anniversary tour of Love Is Here, which he's just completed with the band. He talks about his formative years, songwriting, what it was like, getting a deal and the music press at the time. And also talks a lot about, songwriting process and what's coming up in the future on the horizon. Really candid and an absolute pleasure to speak to. So I hope you really enjoy it. Just before we hit the interview, here's a reminder of all the ways that you can support the podcast. So don't forget you can follow on social media, and you can buy me a virtual coffee if you want to support financially. And if you haven't written a review or left a rating, that really, really helps. So if you can do that, that'll be ace. But as always, I need to stop waffling and play the interview. So here's James. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, James Walsh. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
I bet you're just sort of recovering from your sort of delayed tour, the 20-year anniversary tour of Love Is Here. How did it go for you?
It went great. Yeah, it was really good. It was just a relief to get to the end of the tour without getting COVID, because we didn't manage it before Christmas. So yeah, I think in the end it was the little kind of silver lining from that unfortunate period was we were able to put quite a few extra gigs in. So we ended up going up to Aberdeen and going to Coventry, which weren't on the original route. So that was some good that came out of it in the end.
You had to draft in some support from sort of bass players to step in every now and again too. I was saying to my wife, that's Andy Dunlop on the bass. And I was like, what's he doing in Southampton? I was surprised to see him. But how did that come about? Obviously, I know your original bass player couldn't make some of the shows, but how do you go about drafting in people?
We've known Andy for years, and he's played guitar with us before.
Oh.
And in recent years, because our bass player goes off and plays with Spiritualized sometimes, so it's just a case of he's been away with them in America, and it's just a case of they'd already organised his travel and his visas and everything, because obviously ours was a sort of a rescheduled tour. So we just had to just find someone who we all knew and could rely on. And there's a couple of one-off gigs that he's missed as well where we brought Andy in, and so it's not the first time he's played bass with us. Well, that really would have been a baptism of fire. And he did a really good job. Yeah,
it was seamless. I mean, that album, re-listening to it and just seeing you play it live again, it's kind of, for me, it's timeless and brings back so many amazing memories of 20 years ago and starting in bands and being influenced by kind of what I guess we call the new acoustic movement, or whatever you want to, what kind of tag you want to give it. But how does it feel doing the album again from all the way through it like that? Have you done something similar to that before?
Yeah, just the gigs that we managed to get through before Christmas, before I came down with COVID and the rest of the band as well. I always feel like the more kind of water goes under the bridge, the more you appreciate what's gone before. The only difficult part is those songs are quite tough to sing for a 42-year-old compared to a 20-year-old. So I was kind of cursing my younger self when we had 5 gigs on the run of dates, which was particularly strenuous on the voice. There's a lot of honey and licorice tea consumed to get through those gigs. But yeah, I feel like like Silence is Easy is quite a different album to Love Is Here, because you tend to want to almost sort of run in the opposite direction to what people have you tagged as. And then as time goes on, you sort of grow more appreciative of that having a sound and having an identity, and something that maybe critics could use against you.
Yeah.
Is actually on the other side a massive strength. So I think we sort of more, not so much this year, but over time you kind of come to terms with that and stop worrying so much about how cool you are and how good or bad your reviews are, and just think, let's just try and do what we do naturally first and foremost, and then see how far we can, like when we're making new material, just see how far we can push that, but staying true to the emotion and the kind of the musicianship and the style that we've that everyone's sort of grown accustomed to.
Yeah, but I think that was what the music industry, from what I remember, was sort of really missing at the time when bands like yourselves were emerging. It's like we were looking at an more emotional side and heart on the sleeve, approach to lyrics and things, and it was almost like we were missing that after the sort of the Britpop years that kind of was so bright, and then we get this kind of this other movement which seemed to just be more introspective and reflective on everything. And I mean, were you conscious of everything that you were doing in terms of your sound, or was it just stumbling across it sort of accidentally?
That's a good question. I think it was probably a bit of both. I think more, not so much in the songwriting as the delivery and the production. I was listening to a lot of Jeff Buckley and Van Morrison and trying to emulate them in the studio. But the sound came together quite accidentally in a way, because there would always be a lead guitarist in the band. And I'd play acoustic. And then I don't know why we went through loads of lead guitarists. They just never quite fit in with the band and never sort of lasted, really.
Yeah.
And then one day we just decided to invite Barry, the keyboard player, down. And it was just me, him, and Ben and Stell, who I played with for years. And it just, having that sort of difference with the interplay between the acoustic and the piano instead of a more typical rock sound was what brought something fresh and maybe kind of brought the songs to the fore, so the bad songs really stuck out like a sore thumb, because they weren't drenched in, and this is sort of no disrespect to anyone, because it's all, we were all sort of part of the composition of those early songs when we did have guitars. They weren't sort of drenched in riffs and kind of bombast. It was like down to the bare bones. So you could hear immediately the songs like Alcoholic and Lullaby really stood up on their own and sort of led us in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, it's testament to kind of like the quality of those songs, that you can still play them acoustically solo and they sound like that's how they're intended to be, if that makes sense. So they stand up just as well in that way. And I think that's I think how the original sound worked so well.
Yeah. I think once something works well, like you say, as a solo acoustic thing, or a solo or acoustic and piano, then it definitely makes Ben, the drummer, and Stell, the bass player, it makes their job slightly harder. But when when they do manage to come up with, which they do so often, to be fair to them, when they do manage to come up with the right augmentation, the right rhythm to back it up and make it a fuller sound, then that's when it kind of takes it up a level.
How did you find your voice? Once you hear a Starsailor song, or once you hear a James Walsh song, you're instantly, it's you. Was it easy to find?
Yeah, I guess I've always sang from an early age in church and in school, before it was cool as well. Like when I was growing up, the people around me were much more into like happy hardcore DJs. So what's it? There's some gabba rave music and just the maddest stuff. There wasn't any. This was like just before Britpop really came to life, but I just always enjoyed it, and it kind of came naturally to me. There was times where I kind of wished I was better at football, because that would have made me more popular at school.
Right.
But with retrospect, I'm glad that I wasn't, and I managed to stick at the singing. And yeah, I guess that sort of head start of like singing once in Royal David City at kind of 8-9 years old in the church nativity, I think it was probably quite important when it came to singing in a band, because I sort of came with that discipline or that experience already to properly sing, instead of so many singers in bands. It's like mates who get together and look at each other going, who's going to be the singer? It was we all met at music college, so we were all passionate about what we did individually.
Yeah. So it was no surprise to your parents and family then that you were pursuing this as a full-on career.
Yeah, to be fair, like my mum and dad have always been extremely supportive. There was definitely times where they thought, "Are you sure you can?" You sure? It is. To be fair, it is a ridiculous thing to try and tell your mum and dad, like, I'm going to be a famous musician. I remember my dad bought me an acoustic guitar and said, "Get out round the pubs and see if you can get some gigs singing covers." Almost like, I'm happy to support your ambitions and your sort of wish to be this famous musician, but you need to find a more immediate outlet for your talents, because a record label might not kind of come knocking on your door immediately. And I remember doing that and dropping off demo tapes around Chorley, my local town, and I think they pretty much all rejected this demo. And it had Lullaby and Alcoholic on it.
Oh, wow.
So somewhere in a pub in Chorley is one of our earliest sort of versions of those songs. But then luckily it got into the hands of Jeff Barrett at Heavenly and Martin. I think Carl was there by that time, and they booked us to play at the Social. And that kind of got the ball rolling. And I'm one of the few people who like is adamant to their mum and dad that they're gonna be a successful musician, and it actually comes to light.
Yeah, I mean, in those days, often a common theme running through the guests that I speak to is the enemy and the power that they had, to make and break artists. And luckily, I don't think that exists anymore. I mean, how important was it to you at the time, or did you pay any sort of attention to what the music press was saying and doing?
To be honest, it was quite a big thing. It was. I used to buy the Enemy every week and dream of being in it. And like would send I think it was in the Melody Maker, they had like a demo section.
Yeah, Holly's demo Hell. I got in, my band was featured in that one week.
Excellent.
And it wasn't a shit review. It was the weirdest thing. We ended up using it for all our flyers and promotional stuff for years because she's kind of slang. It was kind of like, I can probably recite the whole review. But it's one of those things where she's kind of said, it's pretty run of the mill, but it ain't that bad for being kind of coffee tables like music, she called it. And I think she referenced like Elbow and Yourselves and Coldplay and Keane and all the bands that we were trying to be like. She said these are like basically the exact same sound, but just not that shit, not as shit as you might expect. Well, we dined on it for years and years. But yeah, walking home every Wednesday with both of them, whether the Melody Maker was around under each arm and just trawling through it, and they were a big thing, weren't they?
Yeah, it was a dream to get the cover of The Enemy, which we managed to do twice over the years. Then you kind of bristle at the bad reviews as well.
Yeah.
So it was, Oh no, we didn't. To be fair, we didn't actually get that many bad reviews so much as snidey comments every now and again. There was maybe because some of the journalists were so kind of gushing in their praise that bristled with some of the other ones. They thought we'll kind of keep their feet on the ground by giving them a good slagging every now and again.
Oh, yeah, it's a shame. But I mean, obviously, you look back at that era in your career and think, okay, well, you couldn't have got to that stage without the support, and if you've got to take it hand in hand, it sort of goes together, doesn't it? That they will make you, and they're quite prepared to break you if they feel that it's necessary. But I imagine it could be quite a shock. I mean, lots of bands had it a lot worse, I think, probably.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I still look back with fondness at those times where, and like you say, we do kind of owe them a sort of debt of thanks for, and Steve Lamacq at Radio 1 as well, when he kind of, and Joe Wiley, when they were doing the evening session, when they sort of put their weight behind you, it's a really influential thing, and it's a thing that's much easier to deal with as you get older, that thing of being the flavour of the month or even flavour of the year or a couple of years or whatever, and then the inevitable just new batch of bands and musicians who come and take your place. In a way, you're much more philosophical about it and grateful that I think what it comes down to is like that platform is the sort of jump off point to give you your career and to give you these fans who are still there long after the hype has died down. But when you're young, there's a part of you that thinks you're going to be on that platform forever, and it just doesn't. It happens for so few artists that they stay. Yeah, I guess like the U2s and the Coldplays and the Killers of this world, who are just, every album is a new event. Everyone else is just, like I say, so beloved by their fans, and just grateful to still have a career in music.
You've been so busy. I mean, as a solo artist and writing and recording consistently, is it 6 solo albums and EPs?
Yes, something like that, or at least 5.
I was going to ask you about your songwriting and how you approach these sort of things, because obviously it's evolved over the years. I mean, do you come at these albums conceptually, or are you kind of are you constantly writing and then put things together that maybe fit a certain type of album, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think more the latter. I try and I've had a bit of a break recently because I've just got back off tour and don't want to be singing every day. We've got another gig in Denmark next week, but when I've not been busy with the band, I try and write every day, and then there tends to be a pattern of songs that kind of fit together. I'll write 20 songs for a 10-track album and work out which songs kind of live in the same world. Yeah, just try and spruce them up a little bit as best I can.
Are you thinking of arrangements as you go as well, or are you kind of does that come later in the process?
Yeah, some of the songs come sort of already arranged. Like particularly I have quite a lot of very short songs, but then the longer ones, the ones that or the more developed songs, I kind of have to listen to a few times, and then occasionally I'll be out walking and re-listening to stuff and realise it's the wrong tempo, or I need to bring it up a key or down a key and things like that.
What would you say was the best sort of time writing wise for you? Is it like, are you a night owl writing, or is it something that you get up and discipline yourself to do in the mornings?
A bit of both, really. I do tend to do quite a bit of. I've done quite a bit of writing at night recently, because we've got a relatively new baby in the house, and my girlfriend works during the day. So if I'm not busy myself, I take Cherry to the park and try and keep her entertained her mum's got a meeting or like a Zoom or whatever, or she's got work to do. So then as soon as she goes to sleep, I'll sit with an acoustic guitar and be as quiet as I can. And just get those initial ideas down, and then wait for the opportunity to be able to develop them and sing out instead of. I remember watching a documentary about the band, and Robbie Robertson was saying that he wrote The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down.
Yeah.
When he had a new baby in the house. So he was singing this, what's become this huge kind of anthem that Levon Helm kind of used to belt out. It started life as this tiny kind of delicate little lullaby that he was trying desperately to finish this song that he was so excited by, but not wake the baby. I can definitely emphasize with that.
Yeah, God. I mean, I think I pretty much gave up playing guitar for 8 years, probably longer than that. But it's one of those things, isn't it, where I think as soon as you start to see live music again, or if you get back into that world where you got, I suppose, if you're not playing professionally, it's and you start hearing it and seeing other people play it, it's such an invigorating thing. I was surprised how sort of drawn to it after such a long time. And just think, I just want to, even if it's playing stuff that you've not played for years, or even it is a cover version, it's such a it's good for the mental health as much as anything else.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like having a baby as well, and I've got older children too, it definitely can make you more productive and practical. Like, okay, this is the window that I've got to do something. So I don't know, luckily, obviously get writer's block every now and again, but luckily most times that having that sort of deadline is quite useful, instead of having all the time in the world to worry about what I'm going to do.
Are you looking around all the time, kind of lyrical inspiration? I mean, I find that the most difficult part of songwriting is just thinking of anything meaningful to say. And how much are you drawing on sort of everyday life?
Quite a lot, really. The only thing I find difficult is just trying not to go over old ground or to find new ways of essentially saying the same thing, but with slightly different imagery or symbolism or whatever, because the things that you're so passionate about, like your family and kids and your partner and the ups and downs of being a musician and good times and the struggles or whatever, they're very sort of powerful draws as a songwriter. It's hard to try and get away from that and to keep writing about that. So most of the time I just give into it and like I say, try and make sure if one or two songs are essentially about the same thing, at least deliver the message slightly differently and make the music different.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of songs I've definitely written in recent years have been about rebuilding and rejuvenation, because that's kind of what everyone's trying to do now, apart from a very fortunate few, is what everyone's trying to do after the pandemic and how that particularly hit the music industry. But a lot of people and industries were pretty hard hit. So it's like, how do we dig our heels in and look to the future and rebuild and try and thrive eventually?
Yeah. And so in terms of like a band recording, is there any kind of ideas to get together and do another Starsailor album in the future?
Yeah. We're getting together in a few weeks. When we get back from Denmark, we're going to get together in a room and start bashing out some ideas. I'll go to the band with some ideas, and because next year's the 20th anniversary of Silence is Easy. Yeah. So we're hoping to have a new album together as well. So we've got a busy year in prospect. New album and Silence is Easy. So
wow, yeah. And are the guys in the band, how honest are they when you come up with stuff? And are they they go along with it? Because obviously, you present it with something that you've been working on. Are they honest and open? Obviously, I'm guessing they are. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be together as an original outfit. But I mean, how honest are they with you?
Pretty honest, really. It's more subtle than just like you don't necessarily turn around and go, "This is shit," or what you're doing. You can just tell that the songs that and they always go to the effort of coming up with something for anything that I present. But you can just tell the songs and the ideas that they're more excited by and want to go back to. So they just sort of, like I say, kind of subtly push certain things aside that maybe it's usually something that I agree with deep down as well. As rarely. Yeah. And there's always my solo stuff as well. If I was particularly passionate about a song that they didn't really understand or understand the appeal of, then I can work it for my solo album. So it's good to have that outlet, and it does feel like I'm starting to get to know which songs kind of suit the band and which songs are more introspective and more suited to a very stripped down arrangement and a solo album.
Yeah. Are you going to be touring the album again? The next 20 sort of year anniversary album?
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, we're just the new album and the Silence is Easy anniversary. We're just working it all out now and seeing what the possibilities are. But I don't think I'm revealing anything too. What's the word?
Exclusive.
Exclusive, yeah.
Or yeah,
it's fairly Yeah, it's fairly obvious that's what we'd be doing. I think I remember there's definitely a time, maybe a decade ago, where it was deemed as like a bit of naff or a bit of a sellout to kind of push anniversaries. But I think the dwindling state of the music business, and also the appeal of nostalgia that seems to just grown and grown, it's kind of put pay to that, really. And there's very few bands that won't sort of go ahead with a
yeah.
And I think it was probably just a snobbishness before anyway. It's like people, like the Love Is Here shows, people came and really enjoyed it, and it kind of took them back to that era, and they came to the gigs kind of knowing what they were getting. And I think that's quite a big thing when you get so many people who go and watch bands and go, oh, well, they didn't play this song or that song, and I'm really disappointed. It's like everyone came to those shows because they love the album, and yeah, we played it in its entirety.
Yeah, it was definitely, the audience was definitely there for it. Well, James, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for speaking to me. I'll let you go and get some well-earned rest before you set off again.
No problem.
And hopefully, well, like I say, really look forward to hearing new stuff and new recordings to do with the band as well.
Excellent. Good to chat to you.